The truth of it is, the house is just an analogy for my head. Like, this is just my imagination, and all these characters in it are characters that I've written. And funnily enough, it is canon that there are plot holes because I'm not the perfect writer. I've made the perfect out for me, see?
I've been watching Markiplier make videos since 2012, and the multiverse he's made is both very weird and very fun. The first part of In Space with Markiplier is a story about an egotistical man and the viewers he's so fond of accidentally breaking the multiverse. At least, that's my interpretation. In order to explain this theory, I'm going to need to explain the established rules of this multiverse, so that I can show you how they're being used in space. The most important rule, and sometimes the most difficult rule to understand, is how roles work. So we're going to start there in this video. Heads up, if you haven't tried to watch at least these videos on Markiplier's channel, I highly recommend you do before you continue. Links will be in the description for that handful of you that came from Facebook. Last chance, go watch them! Spoiler time! Also, I feel like I should mention, I've seen similar theories on Tumblr and Twitter. Also, I'll be posting more videos like this, so if you want more, you know, subscribble, ding dong, do that.
This kind of idea that there's heroes and villains, like that's all just what the actor wants. He wants to play roles, he wants to play pretend, play imagination, he wants to go into this world and like have this great time playing all these different roles, and that's a metaphor for all the videos on my channel.
If you haven't seen it yet, I made a summary video for Who Killed Markiplier as I understand it, since that one's tough to really get without watching 2 or 4 or 6 hours of explanation videos. After Who Killed Markiplier, the characters in Mark's skits and stories are considered to be, well, maybe alive is too strong a word, but definitely sentient to some degree. They at least operate on their own thoughts and feelings and desires. Kinda. They inhabit Mark's universe in an endless nightmare, for I mean they get to live forever on his channel, in his stories. Happy, happy, joy, joy. But these living characters still have to follow a set of rules based on their role. Here's the 2 definitions for role in the dictionary. In television, movies, and plays, a role is a character an actor plays, their part in a story. They get a script for their role, memorize it, and play that role to the best of their ability.
Can we go up from that, or is that impossible? Fuck, let's just do it again.
Also, in sociology, we all have roles that are connected to our status in society. Roles are behaviors that are expected of us because of our status. For example, I have a status as an older brother, and there's many roles that are expected of me, regardless of me living up to them. And if I were a younger brother, I'd have completely different roles, and it's possible for roles to change over time as well. This also applies to my employment, all kinds of things. The roles that characters have in Mark's universe are kind of a hybrid of these two. A character's role can impact how they react to certain situations, what desires they have, what they're capable of. Wilfred Mother-Loving Warstash, or Mlamulua, does a really great job of demonstrating this and how characters are forced to operate.
Imagine if you had a character like the detective, and his character traits were Hunt's Dwarfstash, has had many encounters with Dwarfstash, was very close to catching him on numerous occasions, but he always managed to slip away.
Every time I think I've got him for good, he somehow manages to slip away.
I love this video. It's such a masterpiece that it's inspired me to spend nearly 4 years now making a fan game, which is why I know way too much about this universe. But anyway, the main conflict in Wamalawa comes from Abe's role, which is currently noir detective. Following the role becomes more and more difficult for him as his reality is revealed to work differently than he thinks it does. See, Abe has no idea he's a fictional character in a story. He thinks he's an actual detective hunting down Wilfred Warstash. But if an event in this world hasn't happened on screen, then it hasn't actually happened. Markiplier said that at some point in one of his videos, but I can't find the quote right now. Breaking the fourth wall is kinda tough on one's mental stability, so Abe's brain copes by filling in the gaps to help maintain this idea that he's a real person. This leads to him starting off with classic lines from noir films, but with no real substance or meaning behind them. He knows Warfstash fled the country, but not where to, because again, if we didn't see it, it didn't actually happen.
Shacked up you shacked up with I've always had them. I've been collecting them.
This is just another clue. Like, I've always had them. I've always had them. Of course I've had them.
I've always had them.
I've wanted it.
I've been collecting.
And then the reason. Reality is not gelling, but his brain is making up why it makes sense.
It is important to note that actor isn't using the world this way for anyone's benefit but his own. The other characters have no choice but to exist in the world he has shaped for his own desires. My best guess is that he's able to influence the world by what we'll call setting the stage. When actor sets the stage to be a noir thriller, this in turn influences what the roles of the other characters will be. And the same thing happens when the stage is reset to be a sci-fi adventure. But to be honest, I'm only 95% sure that I'm 95% correct on that particular detail, especially since actor never shows up in WMLW. But maybe sicking Abe on Wharfstache was the whole point to begin with, since technically Wharfstache got away with cheating and murder. Or maybe I'm reading too much into it. Either way, whatever's going on mechanically, it's clearly by actor's design.
What kind of sick, twisted son of a bitch thinks any of this is beautiful?
But in this place, I'm gonna make something beautiful.
Now, most characters in this universe will have to follow along with their roles, and even the viewer character is stuck in their roles, as far as I can tell. But there are a few exceptions. To be exempt from the rule of roles, a character would need to have enough power, or as I call it, influence, to be able to either A, escape actor's influence, or B, influence the world themselves. Selene seems to have some influence on setting the stage, at least within her own head. Really, the DA's head? Yeah. But she still has a role of, essentially, the femme fatale, even with the majority of the fatale happening off screen. Only 2 other characters have any strong influence on their own role.
The actor, Damien, and Wharfstache are like 3 facets of my personality. Damien is the empathetic part. Wharfstache is the insane part, the zany part that's goofy, that tries to have fun all the time. The actor is the part of me that's kind of narcissistic, the asshole part of me.
Actor chooses to be in the spotlight, and to take on various roles within the universe as he pleases. Markiplier, however, has been assigned a role by actor, as established in Damien.
What is a hero without a villain? What? A villain! Every good story needs a villain.
While Markiplier is taking the role of an antagonist to actor, he isn't exactly doing this within the narrative and script like actor would want him to. He's a lot more meta about it, with a goal of getting the channel's audience to side with him.
Same snake, different skin. Always spinning his yarns, his webs, his lies.
He'll be the villain actor has asked him to be, sure, but he's going to be a villain his way. Meanwhile, Wharfstache is just, role-less, most likely? He's very interesting in how he functions. He's like a meta Looney Tunes character with a backstory fit for an edgy anime. I might make a whole video just about him. But anyway, now that we know how roles function, and who does and doesn't have to follow their roles, it's time to talk about what egos are. Ego is fandom terminology, in reference to an alter ego that a YouTuber takes on for skits and videos. I've mostly seen it used for Thomas Sanders characters, Jacksepticeye's characters, and of course, Markiplier's. Basically anytime Mark, like the person, Mark Fishbach, invents a new character that he literally plays the role of, the fandom immediately interprets this character as an ego. As an example, Wilfred Wharfstache is largely considered an ego, as are actor and Markiplier. And so is the King of the Squirrels. Let's look back at the 2 other interactive stories that Markiplier has made. A Date with Markiplier is where actor is first introduced, or really revealed. If you make a choice where the date seemingly goes well, Mark proposes to you. On the first date. Wild. And if you say yes...
Cut! Ugh, finally, makeup! Makeup! Fine, get up. Excuse me. Move out of the way!
From where I'm standing, I think obvious actor Mark is obvious. We literally just watched him transition out of his role. Some people refer to Date Mark like he's his own ego, others just consider him to be actor playing a role. I myself think there's like, kind of a middle-ish gray area, especially now that I've seen some events in space that we'll go over in a bit. In Heist, we are instantly given a co-lead to guide us through our story. If you get the true ending, the last line spoken by Heist Mark is this.
Yeah. You, wanna go on that date?
Obvious actor is obvious. However, in alternate routes, actor ends up dying or is otherwise fully removed from the story, and almost instantly a new character will show up to take his place. And, okay. Look. Listen. I don't want anyone to feel attacked. I am not saying you can't simp for Yancey or Illinois or Captain Magnum or that they can't be considered egos. However, A, actor can't actually die, because no one can, and B, actor wants to take different roles and play them and be the lead role. That's literally his core desire, to be the hero, as established both in Damien and in Mark's explanation videos. So... I'm not saying that Yancey is any less real than other characters. I mean, technically they're all fictional characters anyway, so no need to take it that seriously, right? But like, actor is literally an actor. He acts. It's what he do. And if he's going to take on a lead role, wouldn't he want to take on a role that would capture your interest in the way that Yancey, Illinois, and Magnum has? Because one thing that Markiplier has established many times is that the viewer is a character, and the channel is where the universe is conveyed to us. So, in a lot of ways, whoever controls the viewers controls Markiplier's channel, and thus the universe conveyed within it. That's why Darkiplier, they're using our empathy for themselves to get us on their side, because that's the only way they can get control of the channel away from actor and to themselves, which would be the perfect revenge. That's why Dark's route isn't a heist, it's all about the truth and all about actor's lies, because actor being as selfish as he is makes it easy for you to sympathize with Darkiplier, because even though Dark's role is the antagonist, when you're the antagonist to antagonistic character... Sorry. But that's just the theory. But yes, this is actor. This is also actor. This is also actor. I like to think of it like tarot cards, with these three being the major egos and everyone else being minor egos. Minor doesn't mean they're less important or valuable, but it still shows who has more independent influence and control on the channel. So yeah, that's my understanding on how rules work. Oh shit, this is supposed to be a theory video! Let's start with the opening for space. Keep a close eye on actor, who currently has the role of head engineer, or Space Mark, as some call him. I'll refer to him as engineer instead of actor, but to be fair, throughout the story he acts very... actor-like.
Kind of narcissistic.
The first thing we notice is the engineer seems to just not notice or acknowledge the chaos happening on his ship, and the crew seems to be in constant peril around him. But he's just talking about how proud he is of the ship. That's classic narcissistic behavior. But if you notice the framing here, we're not really focused on the chaos either. Like someone legit dies right next to us, and we're not even looking at the scene. It's completely out of frame. All of our focus is on engineer. This could indicate that the viewer character, who I'll refer to as the captain, is also less concerned about the crew and more concerned with the engineer. Or it might not, I could be reading too much into that. Then we're introduced to the warp core. Now, I personally believe that the warp core is the entity. There's a few reasons why, but the biggest clue, in my opinion, is from this.
Still not 100% sure how it works, but you don't need to know how something works in order to use it.
What happened was, Mark had been experimenting and trying and understanding this place and what this place was and doing research. He was stabbed 37 times. That's because he stabbed himself 37 times over the course of preparing for this. Poisoning, beating, like drowning, shot, just trying to see and push the limits and understanding and knowing what it is. Because every time that he died, he got sent to this place and was able to like really get a deeper understanding of it and understand what's going on.
And with that theory in mind, it's hard not to side-eye this comment here.
And when we found it again, it passed every safety test with flying colors. It's not gonna be like last time. Oh no. This time, the Invincible is finally gonna live up to her name.
Found it again? Last time? The ship is called the Invincible too. And remember, as a rule of thumb, anything we haven't seen hasn't happened.
Oh, you should have seen what happened to the first Invincible. I mean, actually, now that I think about it, I don't think anyone saw what happened to the first Invincible.
So this vague living up to her name seems like a goal attached to his role. His behaviors are contradicting this. He's ignoring everything that's wrong with this ship and crew. Chelsea even points out how he ignores people's advice, and builds the ship in a way that literally chucks him out into space before the first video is even over. See, considering the "pics or it didn't happen" rule, it's an interesting choice to call the ship Invincible 2, and say that everything has happened before. All of the stages, the places in Heist and Date and whatever, are places that exist in Mark's head. Markiplier Manor itself was meant to be a direct representation or metaphor for his mind, and I think the Invincible 2 is also supposed to be like this. It's his second attempt at making a direct metaphor. The Invincible 1 is, essentially, Markiplier Manor. And if we indulge that a little bit, that means that the different rooms on the ship could be allegories for things that are on his mind. It could even be, though I'm not sold on this, that the colonists are meant to represent viewers on the channel, especially since they're all in cryo. See, there's one old video I haven't gone over yet, or seen people bring up much. It's called Go Back to Sleep, and Mark has said that it's meant to be fairly close in concept to Damien. This idea of the viewer being asleep is brought up in space, in a scene that appears to take place in the Upside Down. Hey DA, did you wake up from your nap? This is off topic from the Sabotage. I just feel in my bones that it's important to the story, and possibly to why the self-sabotage is so dangerous. But I don't want to get carried away.
You're just too focused on the minutiae of it. The details, the who killed who, the who slept with who. You're not focusing on the big picture.
Speaking of getting carried away, when I saw this happen, the interaction was so pointed and emphasized that I was initially convinced that this character was somehow important, and would come back in part 2 or something. But no, she's just doing that so we won't notice old man Mark.
No one sabotages the ship because the only two people that can change anything on the ship are me and the captain, and the only person that I trust more than myself is the captain.
An important thing to understand about self-sabotage is that it's usually done unconsciously. Sometimes you don't realize that your impulse or urge to do this or that comes from wanting to hit the self-destruct button until you've already done it. So the problems in the first half of Space, the ADS going offline, the cryo chamber leak, the reactor, all of it, it's part of the stage that actor is setting. But Engineer isn't reacting very confidently to this stuff, and I think that's because there is a level of separation from actor's personality that comes from actor playing a role. What I mean by that is, he's getting what we will call lost in the role. It's part of why I feel comfortable still calling characters like Engineer and Ego. He's forgotten that he's an actor. He only knows what has happened to him within the story and whatever is relevant to his role. I guess actor must be a method actor. No wonder he's an asshole. I'm guessing he'll snap out of this and go full Actomark at some point in part 2, but that depends on what's in store for part 2. Another hint towards self-sabotage is that when Engineer makes a recommendation of what you should do, or has a lean towards a certain choice, it's always a chaos choice. What do I mean by that? Well, obviously the choices are chaotic and unhelpful, but digging further into that... So, there are 3 endings to In Space with Markiplier Part 1. One is the neutral ending, and it's pretty much every ending, except for these 2. The 2 that don't reboot are, in my opinion, what contain the core of the story that's happening. After close examination, I've determined that this route happens when you make the best choices possible for the crew, and this route happens when you make the worst choices possible for the crew. I shall henceforth refer to these routes as the Order route and the Chaos route. When I say that Engineer is directing us towards chaos, this is what I mean. He wants us to jump into the wormhole indefinitely. He doesn't want us to listen to the reasonable ideas people put out there. He doesn't even want to trust the only person willing and able to help us. He is by all accounts the devil on our shoulder. Even in the first half, when you make the best choices possible, Engineer dies right away and never shows back up.
Thank you for visiting the Universal Stability Agency, the last line of defense between order and chaos.
That doesn't mean we can't learn anything about the story from the Chaos route, though. In fact, we can learn quite a bit. So since Space came out, the fandom has been losing their minds about a new ego. Noir, Mark. Oh, I'm sorry, did you think I was done destroying the illusion that these characters aren't In the first video of the second half of In Space with Markiplier, Go Toward the Light, we reunite with Engineer at the beginning of the story's timeline, after he's been burned to death by a star, and he says,
We're immortal!
He still doesn't exactly understand what's happening or how everything works, but he has learned that he cannot die within the story, and he learns this on all possible routes. Then when you make an ill-advised choice, Noir Mark shows up, and he says this.
Here I am again, back for another ride on the merry-go-round of life. Am I immortal? Am I some kind of god?
Hey Noir, how do you know that? Seriously, if he's not actor, how does he know that he's immortal? Did he read the script? Or perhaps something about our ill-advised choice forced actor to abandon the head engineer role and then take on the Noir role, because the stage he set in space got fubbernucked. See, he still remembers what just happened in the story, because we're still in the same story, but the whole genre has changed, and it's not even just impacting him, it's impacting everyone and everything. Like, do you know what makes this joke funny?
Got any other ideas to get us out of this mess? Or, you just happy to see me?
This joke, on the surface, makes no sense, but consider how roles could play into it. The "are you just happy to see me" bit is a scripted line that is expected of a character, following certain tropes, including noir tropes. Obvious actor is obvious. The trailer and the show itself has a large focus on you being in charge and doing the right things for the crew. So the fact that there are some super bizarre options like wearing a disguise to confuse the ADS, why would that work? Who would even think to do that? We would, apparently. This is how we participate in the self-sabotage, not just actor. Although he is definitely enabling us to do it, but even so, we're choosing those options, are we not? Because the world is getting so fubbernucked, the entity detects a paradox that could destroy the universe, and probably enlists us to help out of self-preservation. Then again, the entity is mysterious enough that maybe we don't know whether it's a purely malevolent being or not. We just assume as much because of the way that it used Actormark at the beginning. Maybe it started to chill out, you know? The wormhole itself could represent the chaos from misusing the entity so much, considering the warp core is what is misused to create the wormhole. Plus, wormholes are very commonly used to represent chaos in sci-fi in general. You know the Event Horizon protocol in the show? The one that detonates explosives around the warp core so that it can't hurt us? Well, hey, varied audience to this video that's totally not an overwhelming amount of teenagers and young adults. Have you heard of Event Horizon, the sci-fi horror movie released in 1997? It's a really good movie. It's about a ship that creates a hole in the space-time continuum and gets the ship possessed by demons that make the crew slowly lose their sanity. Funny that!
It's demons! Run, Jim! Run!
By the time we're in the first video of the second half of Space Part 1, Event Horizon Protocol has been utilized in one way or another, and we're introduced to a random new lady character who actually is relevant to the core story. We never see what leads her here. We never see how she gets battered and bruised and missing an eye. It's possible that this doesn't happen, but it's also possible that it hasn't happened yet. In the Upside Down, the warp core gives us a crystal to help us fix the paradox. And at the end of this scene with her, we see her teleport away with the same crystal. It could be that we are the ones to give her that in Part 2, or that she takes it from us. Or that the entity gives up on us fixing the paradox and enlists her instead. That implies that characters can time travel back into the paradox post the reboot. It also means that the Invincible 1 could be in Part 2, but I prefer my Manor theory. In the Order route, we do see more of Lady, and get some context for why she would blame us for the wormhole. I'm not sure of this, but the USA could represent another aspect of Mark's mind that's meant to defend against the entity and the chaos it can create. As someone who has been in therapy many a time, I won't lie and say that this scene doesn't remind me of when I'm told that a coping mechanism that I've been using to deal with trauma is no longer helping and actually causing more problems than not.
Actually worked a little too well. Like, we can't seem to figure out how to turn it off.
Oh,
You can't?
Maybe that's a metaphor Mark is making on purpose, or maybe I just have a personal experience that I can use to relate to this moment. We'll see. Whatever is going on, I do think Lady and the USA are an aspect of Mark's willingness to do right and fix things, despite the almightily daunting task that fixing things may be. Further into the Order route, we go back to the ship to find that, oh dear, everyone on the ship seems to have lost their minds. Pay attention to this interaction we have with Gunther, a crewmate who has been completely loyal to us up to this point, where he decides to take over as captain. He's not even the only crew member against us.
I am thinking of the colonist, Captain, but the question I gotta ask myself is, were you thinking of them when you were out there having fun? Were you thinking of them when you abandoned us? Were you thinking of them when you destroyed our ship?
See, here's the thing. In this route, the Order route, we have literally been doing everything possible to help the crew. So why is Gunther disappointed in our leadership here? In this route of all routes? Well, thing is, in other routes, we have abandoned them. We have been having fun. We've been screwing around instead of saving the crew. And I think that Gunther knows this. He somehow remembers what's happened in other timelines, most likely because of the wormhole. Bert and Celsi also seem to remember and are reacting in their own way.
For we are cast adrift against the web of the infinite. Hopeless souls worn dull against the waves of eternity.
It's much better than this endless, looping nightmare that you and Mark put us in.
In the Chaos ending, we've made a lot of terrible choices to get here. And then we're offered one more.
You know, they say every choice spawns a new universe. And if that's the case, what kind of universes do you think your choices have been making? You haven't been working very hard to save your crew, have you, Captain?
She's not wrong, though. In this route, we have literally done everything wrong.
I'm only going to give you one choice. This portal will take you right where you need to be.
She literally does make this easy for us. But on this Chaos route, we still opt not to, literally just because her insistence that we do it makes us not want to. Boy, is that relatable, though.
Do you even know who you are?
That's not a bad question. Who are we? We've got the role of the captain in this specific story, but on a grander scheme, as I said before, we are the viewers. We are the ones who keep this channel going, this universe thriving. And that itself makes us the most important person in this universe, and makes our actions critical to how the universe functions. And in this route, we have clearly taken all of that for granted. So, if characters can time travel back into the paradox after the reboot, this could have some implications for Old Man Mark in the neutral ending. I think Old Man Mark could also be from part 2, and because we've sabotaged the other timelines so much, he and Lady accidentally keep us from having a chance to actually fix anything, by assuming we have bad intentions in going to the warp core. And I mean, maybe they were right. Maybe our plan wouldn't have worked. Maybe we would have been tempted to sabotage again. But what they eventually did didn't seem to help much either, because she warns us not to reset the universe. And that's exactly what happens. But at the same time, can you blame them? They seem to be as aware of our mistakes as Gunther is, as any of the crew is. Would you trust us if you knew what we'd done in those other timelines?
The multiverse is littered with the corpses of your failures.
So yeah, Gunther is right. Lady is right. Mrs. Whitaker is right. We as viewers don't see these characters as being alive, at least not enough to stop us from wandering around looking for Easter eggs when we know from the meta lore that they will get hurt when we make a choice that sabotages the ship. And Actor, through the engineer, is enabling us to do it by setting the stage and giving us a role that would impact the world so much, and then tempting us to hit the self-sabotage button at every turn. We are both equally responsible for everything that happens.
All the pain and suffering that you caused, I forgive you! It's all in the past. The future,
Or, that will never be because I beat you!
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
I won't let you do it! I won't let you destroy the universe!
Why would he call it destroying the universe if he was able to time travel from the future? Well, it could be because my theory is wrong, but if I indulge that theory a little bit, the best way I can put this is, maybe the universe as we know it is really gone. Maybe after the reboot, things will be different. Maybe they time travel to before the reboot, because the reboot is what's ruining everything for them. There's a quote in the trailer that is very, very concerning to me when I consider that everything I just explained about roles, the egos, and immortality could no longer function the same in the reboot.
Oh, and I come back, and I go, and I come back, and I always come back!
I guess we'll all find out on Monday. Oh my god, I can't believe I'm making this video so late. Thanks everyone for watching. I've still got a lot I want to say about Space Part 1 and this universe in general, but I am so out of time. Edaha is what I like to go by, and again, if you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe. I'll be making them either way, so yeah. See you later, nerds.